Hello again, and welcome to Adventures in Book Hunting. I believe this is episode 9. Um, for anyone who suffered through episode 8, my apologies. The last thing I think anybody would want to do is watch and listen to me ramble about books for 43 minutes. So I promise I'm going to do something in this episode to make coverage of a massive book haul a whole lot more concise. Um, Last Sunday, between church services, I as I usually do, I checked my phone for messages or alerts, and I got an alert on Facebook. I clicked it real fast to see what it was. Wasn't anything of any big consequence, but as I looked at it, I briefly glanced at my timeline, and there was a notice about an event at a local church, um, not far from where I was at the moment. In fact, it was about halfway between where I was and home, so it was meant that I should go by. And the reason I wanted to go by was a local church that ran a private Christian school had discontinued that private school and had made an announcement that that day, that afternoon, and for part of the day, the next day, last Monday, they were going to be giving away uh, all their books, school materials, art materials, some furniture. Basically, they were cleaning out the space that used to be occupied by their private school. And this was a K through 12, um, uh, a K through 12 school. So, would have ran the gamut of materials, I thought. In any event, my wife and daughter agreed that they would indulge this little side trek on the way home. And so we stopped at this school just a few minutes after the announced starting time, and it was already very crowded. And I recall very clearly as we pulled in and were getting ready to get out of the car, my daughter and I were the only ones that went in, that this is either going to be an awesome, earth-shattering book haul, or it was going to be a complete bust. I doubted it would be anywhere in between. Uh, Fortunately, it was a really great experience. I collected over 50 books. My daughter collected, I think, 3 or 4 herself. And she also got a lot of art supplies and other things she was more interested in. But uh, rather than show you and go through each of those 50 books, reminiscent of what I did in the last episode, this time I picked out 10 of the books that I thought were among the most interesting, and I just want to briefly tell you about those. But before I do, this is a good lesson in how your social media can be used to enhance your abilities and success as a book hunter. I have not really been intending to do this, but my Facebook feed, my Instagram, uh, other social media, all produce a lot of bookish content. YouTube even, and that's generally because that's the way algorithms work. Um a social media site sees that you like a certain thing, and they offer you more of it. And when you consume more of it, they offer you even more. Uh, and That cycle can be harnessed for this very purpose. I would not have known about this event had I not just happened to stumble upon it on Facebook, and I would have truly missed out. But in any event, let's go through the books. Like I said, these are the 10 most interesting ones that I found. But beyond the ones I'm about to show you, close to 40 more books that I'm not. They were all great. I must have looked through, once again, thousands of books that afternoon. But once again, reduced it to about 50 that I wanted to take with me. And like I say, amongst those books, these are the ones I think are the most interesting, the most cool, best fits for me and people I'm searching for. First off, we have a 4 volume set oh, of the works of Josephus. These are uh, the works of a Jewish historian in the first century AD, who wound up siding with the Romans in the Jewish revolt that led up to the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in AD 70. Um, collected in these 4 volumes are the Wars of the Jews, which documents that war, which he was a participant in. His autobiography, The Life of Flavius Josephus, and the remainder is his history of the Jewish people, typically called Jewish Antiquities. Like I say, once again, this beautiful 4 volume set I will be keeping. I have a partial collection of these works in a single volume that's in really, really bad shape. And I'll retire that and keep these beautiful books. As the grandkids would say, these will definitely go on the pretty bookshelf. And the books are the things that are pretty, not the shelf. Second thing, a couple of classics. First off, I got this Library of America edition of Sinclair Lewis, 2 of his most famous novels, Main Street and Babbitt. And these Sinclair Lewis documents the mediocrity, the stifling nature of middle class America in the 20th century. I've read Babbitt, I've not read Main Street, but with this very nice Library of America edition, I will replace 2 books. As you can see, I'm conserving a whole bunch of space on my bookshelves, which is what I'm after these days. I'll donate my old copies, which are still in pretty good shape, and this will go right over here with my other Library of America books. I love these editions. My mind is by now trained to pick these things out at 100 feet in a pile of books, and I'm always going to look at these. I just love these editions. They're printed on very high quality paper, and even the naked hardcovers are very attractive. And you get a built-in ribbon bookmark. Oh, so no, probably one of my preferred ways to have a book. Next, I found 2 copies of Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I have, it's too high to reach. I have a Penguin Classic edition of the same book, which is more than sufficient for my needs. So I'm going to donate these 2. A Reader's Digest. I love Reader's Digest almost as much as I love the Library of America books. Acid-free paper, very sturdy, and usually at least some illustrations. Yes, and usually they have at least one, and usually many, full-color illustrations of the work. Oh, and that's a famous scene. Knights on Bicycle. If you don't know the book, read the book. You'll find out why this image is here. In any event, these 2 will get donated. Moving on. Another one of my favorite classic publishers. This is a Barnes & Noble. This is, of course, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I already have a fairly nice edition of it. This one is in pretty good shape. Like I say, if I didn't already have the edition I have, I would be keeping this one. But yes, I always like Barnes & Noble Classics. They always have good introductory notes and editorial materials. Anyway, I say it's a book that you should read as an American. Let me comment in a second. It was written in the 1850s, in the lead up to the American Civil War, and I think it, more than any other thing you can read, will give you an insight into the thinking of the abolitionist movement of the era, and in part why, by the late 1850s, particularly after John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry, I think the war was almost inevitable. but in any event, and either it or Ben-Hur by Lew Wallace is probably the best-selling book in America in the 19th century. Yeah. Okay. Next, a little local flavor. This is an Arcadia publishing book. They do these pictorial histories of uh, distinct areas, sometimes topics. I once had one on the New York World's Fair of 1939, 1940. But in any event, the point is you take some local history, mostly photographs, right? Um, and this one tells you in images the history of Mercer County, West Virginia, written by William Bill Anderson, Archer. Pardon me, William Bill Archer. I hope he doesn't see this. I know Mr. Archer well, have known him for going on, I'm sure, over 30 years. Um, he was a journalist and is now a local county commissioner. And uh, this one has an inscription and autograph. I already have one, so this one I'll be donating. I don't know as far much as value, but I think this is the kind of thing that will sell in a local bookstore. There's either tourists or locals are very interested in these kinds of things. So that one will certainly be going to the Hatter Bookshop. Next, I have some works of history. So I'll go through, hopefully in short order. Undaunted Courage by Stephen Ambrose. I really enjoy Stephen Ambrose. This is the story of the Lewis and Clark expedition. I read this one a long time ago. I already have a copy. Um, but this is a great work. Stephen Ambrose is very readable, very popular, and therefore I think very marketable. Um, the other work that you might know him for, he wrote Band of Brothers, which the HBO miniseries was based on. Anyway, a very easy to read, very informative, popular historian and biographer. I generally try and get Stephen Ambrose, um, and I would certainly recommend this one. It really gives you a feel for what it would have been like to be on that expedition and how truly heroic those gentlemen were. Uh, Undaunted Courage. Next, a copy of Battle Cry of Freedom, the Civil War era. This is part of the Oxford American History series, written by James McPherson, a preeminent Civil War scholar. And I don't think I'm alone when I would claim this is still the very best single volume history of the American Civil War. It was published, I believe, in like 1985. In fact, in the late 80s when I was in college, I took a class on an upper level history class on the Civil War. This was our textbook. Um, and like I say, it's again very readable, very detailed. Uh, and let's see, a very thorough and good one volume treatment of the Civil War. And a book that's always near and dear to my heart, Lies My Teacher Told Me. Uh, I had struggles, particularly with some of my history teachers in high school. Uh, it has been told that there were times where I would take questions on history exams for a particular teacher, that I would mark through them, rewrite them in what I thought was a corrective way, and then proceeded to tell my teacher what I thought he was trying to ask, uh, based on his flawed question. In any event, this book is exactly what you would think it is. This goes through many of the myths that are taught in American history classes, both at a secondary school and higher education level. Very readable, funny in a very ironic way. Uh, I've had this book before, read it a long time ago. This is a revised and updated edition. I'm sure there's material in here I have not read, but in any event, let's say it's a popular book and it'll be going to the Hatter. All right. Oh, I got several children's books um, in this haul last week. Uh, this is one that I thought was particularly interesting, The Diamond Tree. It is a book of reimaginings of Jewish folk tales and children's stories. And in doing a quick inspection of it, I realized there's an author's inscription. Let's see if I can get to it. The book has two authors, um, Howard Schwartz and Barbara Rush, and Howard Schwartz has autographed and inscribed this one. It's also the only book I've done research on out of the ones I'm showing you, some research as to its value. And this book, with this kind of autograph, generally runs somewhere in the 30s, $30 to $35. Anyway, that is obviously not what made me get it. It was just the subject matter, and as a good children's book should, has some really evocative illustrations. In any event, that one I'll be donating to the Hatter. Next, a biography, and I'm fairly certain I'm accurate when I say this, but the first Jewish person to serve as a cabinet secretary in an American cabinet is Judah P. Benjamin, and he did not serve in a cabinet in the United States of America, but in the Confederate States of America. Judah P. Benjamin started out as the Secretary of State for the Confederate States of America, eventually served in several other roles. I believe ended the war as Secretary of War, but a very interesting character. I believe from New Orleans. I'm tempted to keep this one for a while to read it before I donate it, but he had a very interesting life, a very interesting career, and many would think uh, served a very interesting role, particularly how a lot of the common people treated Jewish people in the Confederacy. Um, I read some other literature on Jews who served in the Confederacy, uh, and that's particularly why I think I may want to read this one before I let go of it. Don't know if I'll keep it forever, but I certainly want to experience this. All right, the last of the 10 that I got, I actually got to obtain because of my daughter. As I told you at the beginning of the video, she went into and found a few books that she wanted, and after we'd gotten back to the car with my pile of 50 books, she had, like I say, 3 or 4, and she showed me what she had, and one of them was this, Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And I already have this book. I've read it, goodness, when I was in high school. Um, it's an odd little book. The premise is a senior demon is teaching his nephew, a demon in training, on the fine art of tempting humans, and it's often comic, often very serious, but always insightful. And as I said, I have an edition already, which I will be retrieving and probably donating, because this one is so very nice, and this is a book I want to keep forever. And this one is, let's see, I'll put together deckled edges, French flaps, nice picture of Clive Staples Lewis. Um, and I only got this because I noticed that my daughter had it. And when I told her that I thought, wow, what a great book, she said, well, there's another one back in there. And so immediately we went back in and we were able to find second copy of this book that the school had that they were giving away. And I am very glad I did. Like I said, this is a kind of book I'm going to keep forever. As well, they also have editions of 6 other C.S. Lewis books, and I'm going to try very hard to find those. I've read all but one of these, and I currently own, oh, I think at least 2 of them. But I would love to have all of C.S. Lewis's works in this edition. Like I say, it's small, portable, durable, even though it's a paperback. Yeah. Number 10. Now, an honorable mention. I found this one. I, I, I'm going to I'm going to at least read through this one. And this is a book on Book Notes, Stories from American History by Brian Lamb. Brian Lamb was a founder of C-SPAN, the cable news network that covers Congress. And for many years, from 1989 for about, I think, 15 years thereafter, he hosted an interview show where he would interview nonfiction writers about their current works. He would receive a book, he would read it during the week, and then Sunday night, he would interview the author on it. I watched a lot of those episodes, and as you can see here and here are just a list of many of the influential and popular nonfiction writers of the late 20th century that he interviewed. Love the show. He had, after this, he had another show that I believe ran on Saturday mornings, and it was a call-in show. He would host another mostly nonfiction. Every now and then you get fiction writers, but the vast majority were nonfiction writers, and would interview them about their works, and people could call in and ask those authors questions. But in any event, yes, this is a series of essays, I believe all written by Mr. Lamb, about those interviews, and I look forward to taking a look at this. But in any event, once again, to go back to the beginning, just kind of a quick lesson on how your social media can help you find really interesting books, and obviously books at a very low price. You can't get lower than free. And as I said, this is a fifth of what I was able to get. Some of those are going to get donated. Some of those go to particular individuals, things I think they would be particularly interested in. And actually, a few I'm going to keep. And out of what I've gotten out of this haul, there are probably 3 or 4 books that I didn't already have. In some cases, I'm either upgrading, downgrading, however you want to look at it, with the basic goal of getting either a better edition or more space on my shelf. But unfortunately, I'm showing book dragon tendencies again. I'm going to actually add 3 or 4 books to my collection, but I think I've already selected out at least 3 times as many that I can take out and donate, so the hoard is getting smaller. In any event, I hope you enjoyed the haul, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you.